Hello, everyone. I'm Evelyn McGovern, the president and co founder of Women of Colors. Welcome this evening to How I Overcame Forum. Women of Colors has hosted community forums for 8 years now. First, we began the forums in person, post pandemic, and transitioned to hosting them by Zoom during the pandemic. And we have been conducting various forums through Zoom ever since. We have an outstanding panel, and Vicky Hill, Women of Color's Vice Chair, and this evening's host will introduce the panelists shortly. I want to tell you a little bit. I'm sorry, I had a little accident here. My lighting just fell. But I want to tell you a little bit. We'll get it together here in a minute. Sorry about that. I want to tell you a little bit about Women of Colors. Women of Colors' mission promotes diversity, equity, and inclusiveness for the empowerment of families by providing services to strengthen them, the community, and enhance the community relations within the Great Lakes region and beyond. We are a grassroots, independent, community based organization from different backgrounds with different ideas to help make a difference in the Great Lakes Bay region. Our programs include the annual Warmer Child for Winter. Women of Colors donated over 700 coats and winter accessories this past year. We offer prevention, life skills, and evidence based programs with professionals and certified instructors to service youth and adults. We host several forums to educate and bring awareness on different topics of interest that include how I overcame, with women sharing their incredible stories of lived experiences, and I'm Still a Man forum to focus on men and their enriched stories of how they overcame struggles to become successful. We also host Time to Have a Conversation. We talk about various topics like criminal justice system, domestic violence, human trafficking, mental health, substance use disorders, and many more. So please sit back and relax and enjoy how I overcame, which women with challenges in their lives have become successful. So also please, if you're on Facebook, click like and share. So Vicky, would you please present our panelists and how I overcame?
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, everyone who's joining in and looking on to How I Overcame, presented by Women of Colors. As our president, Evelyn, has already stated, tonight we're going to be talking with some ladies, and they're going to talk about the struggles that they had in their lives and how they overcame them. It is always stated that if you tell your story, this encourages and promotes other women and men as well to tell their story. Everyone has a story. It's whether or not you are able to tell that story. So we're going to listen to this panel of women tonight as they tell their stories, how they may have struggled through some parts of their lives and how they overcame those struggles. We all go through them. We all go through struggles one point of time in our lives. No one can say I've never struggled. We've all gone through it. But it's how we get through them that brings us through and how we sustain after we come through these struggles. So we are delighted to have these ladies tonight. We have Crystal Sanders, Sharina Johnson, and Kendall McElway. They're our panelists tonight, and they're going to start telling us their stories tonight. So first of all, I'm going to read the bio of Crystal Sanders. Crystal is from the Underground Railroad, as well as Women of Colors Board Assistant Secretary. So Crystal Sanders has overcome a good deal of negative self-talk to achieve her goal of earning a bachelor's degree. As one who struggled academically in high school while married and raising 4 children, Crystal attended Delta College and Saginaw Valley State University as a non-traditional student, meaning she was older than most of the traditional students and managed a 3.5 grade point average. Go, Crystal. Crystal majored in psychology as well as she knew she wanted to pursue a career in human and social services. Whether others tell you or tell you yourself you cannot achieve a dream or goal, don't believe it. God has destined you for more. Starting in her youth, Crystal advocates for others. She is a volunteer coordinator at the Underground Railroad, frequently educates others on the programs and services, the agency and others, and speak up in support of survivors. The best way to support others is to believe, validate, and support them. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you for having me this evening. The first thing that I want to say, based on the introduction that Vicki just shared, is what happens to us, we don't have a lot of control over. But how we respond to what happens to us, that is what we have a responsibility to. That's what we can control. And so I'm going to share, starting from in my childhood, some patterns that I developed that really I am the only one that's responsible for them, regardless of whether, my parents were good parents or bad parents, or regardless of whether in my marriage, I've had struggles, regardless of whether the fault lied with my husband or myself, or regardless of issues that, I had as a parent with my children. We are here to guide, direct, lead, our children, hopefully, along life's path so that they make wiser decisions. But sometimes we as parents don't always make the right decisions. So I'm going to get into a little bit of when some of my struggles started and some of the struggles that have seen me through life, and then even some that I still deal with, but how I, with the grace of God, have been able to overcome. So I was the firstborn, only female. I had two younger brothers. And from the earliest time that I can remember, I always wanted to be the best at whatever was done, whatever task was taken on. So at a very young age, I was, taught to do chores and taught to do laundry. I remember a friend coming over about in the 5th grade, and I'm putting laundry in the laundry machine and taking stuff out of the washer and put it in the dryer. And she looked at me like, I wouldn't even know how to turn either one of those on. But I was, doing laundry, I was cleaning. And so at a very young age, when my brothers and I were assigned tasks to do around the house, oh my, no. Once mom and dad were out of the picture, doing their thing, whatever, I booted the boys outside to play. And I did the chores for all of us because they just did not do it to my standards. Good or bad, that's just how this kind of sensing that I needed to be perfect started. And it doesn't, it leads to some problems when you think this way. So at about the same age, and this is all like around 11 years old, around the same age, even though I had been raised in church, my mom played the piano, the organ, sang in the choir. I went to Sunday school. I was in church nearly every week. I went to a revival service on a Wednesday evening with a good friend. And during that service, I heard very plainly and clearly the message of salvation, my being a sinner and my need for Jesus. And I remember at that young age going forward. Well, you think, oh, I'm a Christian. Everything's going to be great now. No issues, no problems. Well, that is not the case. And I wish I could tell you, living out my Christian faith as a teen was a piece of cake, but it wasn't. It was met with a lot of challenges. And I fear that far too often I let myself lead me. I let the enemy lead me. I didn't let Christ and his spirit lead me. So I made some really, really sad, sorry decisions. But as a Christian, I battled with, and maybe some of you that are listening or viewing tonight can say the same thing. I'm a Christian. Why can't I say no to these things? Why do I keep making these same choices, finding myself in these same situations? Why? The why, the why, and then the other thing I found happening is I began to verbally battle with the Lord. God, I can't do this. I can't live in the manner you want me to live. I can't seem to make the right choices. That just brought guilt and shame. And it was like, God, leave me alone. But I want you to hear something in what I'm saying. God never stopped calling me back to himself. Otherwise, there would not have been a verbal battle. There wouldn't have been anything in me saying that what I'm doing is wrong and that, just go on living any old way I want to live. God, by his spirit, was still working in me, still drawing, still, until finally, due to him leading people across my path and bringing them into my life through my teens and into my early 20s, I finally heeded God's voice and I came back to him. Was everything perfect and right after that? No. So I entered a marriage. I will be married 40 years this May. And my marriage to my husband hasn't been without struggles. And the thing of it is, as I said right in the very beginning, what happens to us, we have some responsibility as far as how we respond and so on and so forth. But what we do, we are really held responsible for. So as a wife, again, I brought that, I want to be the best. I want to be the best wife as a Christian. Then children started to be involved. So I want to be the best at being a parent. Well, when you set yourself up to be the best, you don't really leave room for God to have the best position in your life and be leading as a follower. It's like you want to take the lead because you want to be the best. And then I would make mistakes as a wife. I would make mistakes as a mother. And then what would happen? That guilt and shame would come back. God, why do I continually do what I know not to do? Why do I battle with anger so that it scared me and probably at times scared my children? It was a frightening time not to be able to get a hold of anger at times that just seemed so out of control. And it led to probably some depression. It led to anxiety. It led to frustration. And then it's like being on a treadmill. It's just a cycle that just wanted to repeat itself. Because no matter how hard I tried to be the best, no matter how hard I tried to right the wrongs, I still had these battles raging within me. And I finally realized, I said, God, I have been praying, I've been trusting, but I'm still having these battles. And I realized that there were some things going on inside of me, mentally, emotionally, that I needed to get a handle on. But it's very, very humbling to have to reach out for that help. I'm a Christian. With God's help, I should be able to overcome this. So to go and ask for help from a healthcare professional, that was very humbling. And it led me to feel some shame again, because, why can't I overcome these with God's help? Why can't I overcome these, on my own? So I went to my physician and she prescribed me some medicines that help me regain balance in my life. So if I can encourage you about anything, it's to remember what happens to you. We don't have a lot of control over that other than how we respond. what we do to others, what we, I guess, yeah, basically what we do, what we say, how we live, that's what we're responsible for. And if you're struggling in a way with how you're reacting to others, how you're treating to others, how you're talking to others, how you're relating to others, when you are setting high expectations for yourself and you're not meeting that, and it's bringing all kinds of frustrations, seeking the help of a healthcare professional, a mental health professional, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Don't continue to fight the battle on your own. It was when I humbled myself and sought help, and with the help of a medical professional, I was helped to overcome some very strong internal and external battles that I was facing in my life. So, again, when you are trying to be the best, or you think that as a Christian, I shouldn't have these struggles, I shouldn't have these challenges, remember that we're all human. And, we can't control what others do, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our children, whether it's our family, whether it's our closest friends. The only thing that we have control over is ourselves. And with the help of God and with the help of others, we can help ourselves to be that better self. Maybe not the best, but that better self. So, the work that I do, the work that we do at Underground Railroad, we tell our survivors all the time, it is not your fault. When they come to our agency for help, we're here to meet them where they're at, to help them to overcome. But you know what? We can't do it for them. They have to look within themselves and find that strength and that purpose and that vision of what it looks like outside of that, maybe abusive, difficult situation or whatever. But we also tell them repeatedly, it is not your fault. So again, I just want to, thank you for joining tonight, and just really encourage you, when you find yourself acting in ways that alarm yourself, when you find that others are treating you in a way that though you're not responsible for it, it's really not the way it should be, reach out, get that help that you need to move forward and to be all that God intended for you to be. So thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or there might even be some times for some question and answers at the end. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, thank you, Crystal. I appreciate you telling us your story. And I like the fact that you encourage people to go out and get some help if they need that help. So many times we think we can just do it on our own, right? We think, I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with me. But then if we go out and we can talk to somebody and just be able to actually express ourselves without being afraid to, to be totally transparent is huge. Because sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard to be completely transparent because you're afraid of what other people might think about you, what other people might say, and it holds us back. So I'm very pleased that you are encouraging people to get the help that they need if they need that help. And I liked when you said, well, I'll go back to one portion when you said you did some risky things in your youth, but haven't we all, right? We've all done that as a youth until we learn to do better, right? So you do better. You learn to do better the older you get. A lot of times we do those risky things, and because we're just kind of, immature, we haven't matured up to the level maybe that we should be. I'll put it that way. So yeah, so that's what I went back to when you said that, because we do better. When we know better, we do better, right? That's the saying that we always hear. When we know better, we will do better. So I appreciate your story. And you talked about finding your purpose. God calls us all for a purpose. We have to find that purpose, realize our purpose, and walk therein. Once we find that purpose, then we walk in that purpose, right? So I appreciate your story. It was very good.
Can I ask Crystal a question?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, Crystal, yes, I commend you on sharing your story, and I was just wondering, your family or your parents, did anyone ever recommend you to therapy at some point, or notice anything different about you, or you did all this on your own?
Well, I guess, Evelyn, if I'm going to be really transparent, I was able to mask my battles pretty well, especially outside of the home. You know, others may have saw me as a great wife, a great mother, you know, I was a child care provider for a while and everything. But the battles that were going on inside me, I didn't do so well at masking when I was with my family, with those closest to me. So, you know, our children were probably too young to really say, you know, Mom, you're not acting like yourself. You need to get some help.
Okay.
And I often, I kind of hid. I hid certain things, I guess, from my husband, tried to maybe protect him, protect myself. And so I think the battle more was just my knowing I'm not behaving in a manner that is me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm acting in ways that are scaring me, you know,
Mm.
and I just knew that I couldn't get a handle on it by myself and I needed to talk to somebody. And if my doctor would have said, you know what, Crystal, I think you need a little bit more than a pill to take once a day, I'm going to send you to somebody. You need to talk to somebody. But that little pill I took made a big difference. And I just finally was able to stop, you know, stop using it. But I'm telling you, it just brought a balance and a peace and calm back into my life. So I just want to encourage, if you need to seek help for situations and circumstances that you just feel within and without are beyond your control, I encourage you to do it. Don't think you have to do it alone or on your own. Please.
You know what? I'm sorry, Evelyn. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I'm just,
It brought back a memory to me. When you talked about you went to your doctor, it really brought back a memory to me because when my daughter was 13, I think she was around 13, you know, teenagers can be a handful. I put it that way, especially the girls. They can be a real handful. And I remember I also had to go to my doctor and explain to my doctor something is off, something is not right. I would get so angry. I could not bring myself back. I would just be, I don't know. I felt like I could probably take a tree branch and a thick one and just snap it in half. That's how angry I got. And it just wasn't normal for me. And I just, when I would get that mad, I just didn't know how to come back to myself. And I remember my daughter as a teenager, she was a handful. I'll put it that way. And it was hard. And so I went to my doctor and I did tell my doctor about it. And just like you, and I forget the name of those pills that they gave me at the time, but it was a hormonal imbalance I was going through. It was a hormonal imbalance. And once she did give me that medication, I began to calm down. The anger, so much anger just kind of went away. You know, it did. And I'm human. It's not just because you're a Christian, just because you believe in the Lord, you're saved, whatever the case may be, does not mean you don't have human emotions, human feelings. Does not mean you don't go through human things, because we do, because we are human. And when you need help, there's nothing wrong with going out there and getting that. So I was on that medication for just a little while until hormones balanced themselves out, and then it was all done. But I went through that. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Exactly.
and all I was gonna say too is, you know, the word mask, you know, the courage to share and be transparent about being, you know, masking your feelings. And how many of us women have done that, have masked the way we feel constantly, and it can tear you up inside. I mean, it's just, that is powerful.
Take those masks off. Get the help you need.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for sharing your story, Crystal. And like I always say, your story is going to help someone else. You never know what a person is going through until they actually tell you what they're going through. You never know who you're helping until you tell that story, because there are more people that are going through this like you are, or have been going through it, or once went through it.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle. It really does. Thank you, Crystal. Next, we're going to hear from Miss Sharina Johnson. Sharina was born, raised, and resides in Saginaw, Michigan. She attended Saginaw Public High School throughout her grade school years. She earned an Associate's of Arts in Social Work and Associate's in Business Studies from Delta College, a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Work from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and a Master's of Business Administration from Davenport University. She is a Christian and passionate about her walk with Christ. She shares a blessed life with her loving, inspiring, and supportive husband, Oliver. She is a longtime member and employee of New Covenant Christian Center. Welcome, Sharina.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am honored and pleased to be here with you all. And first, I just would like to start off with prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, I lift up this opportunity unto you. I ask that as I open up my mouth that you will fill it. You be glorified and others be helped. In Jesus' name, and others come to you. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so I am going to be talking about how I overcame poverty. And this is a very passionate and touching topic for me. And we just gonna see where it goes as I go, okay?
All
Well,
right.
I grew up here in Saginaw. My mom, I'm the oldest of three children that my mom had. And my mom was a single mom, and she had three children before she was 21. And I remember, growing up, at first I didn't know that we was poor, because that wasn't talked about. I mean, we were surrounded by a lot of love. I had family and stuff, so I didn't know that. And I remember growing up in the projects, and I know a lot of people have their own views about the projects, but actually the projects was not like what society would call low income housing. It was more of a communal. It was just like a big family. Everybody looked out for each other. The parents would tell on you if you did something. So it's like everybody parent was kind of like your parent because they watched out for you. And I remember growing up in the projects, and I remember being around family and, the different things. But I think it was about maybe the third or fourth grade, it really started. I started getting a better understanding of it. And, we got free lunch in school. We was on the food stamps, so it's bridge cards now, but they actually had paper money back then. And the government glasses that you have to pick from, oh my goodness, they were so awful. So you stood out, and I had a thick prescription. So the people would tease, with Coke bottle glasses and everything. So not only was my prescription thick, but then it was on top of that was some ugly glasses. And I'm cute, so I don't need to have no ugly glasses on. Okay. But that's how it was back then. Okay. And so I was ashamed. I didn't like the glasses, but I needed the glasses to see. Okay. And I didn't like being in that type of predicament, but I had no control over that. I was a child. Okay. So I remember going with my mom one day at the welfare office. It was called welfare office back then. Now it's DHS. Okay. And so I remember going there with her, and you have to turn in the paperwork, and the lady was asking questions and stuff. And that was just a horrible experience for me because the worker acted like the money was coming out of her pocket. And I did not like how she was treating my mom because it wasn't her money. And we wouldn't have been there if we didn't have to be there. So that put a negative um, view of me of those type of workers because of how she treated us, and it made me feel bad because I didn't want us to have to be there. So we were there. So I made up my mind that I wasn't gonna have to come down to the welfare office to get any help from them. And it's important, whatever, whoever you work for, because she wasn't the boss and she wasn't the owner. And maybe that's all she knew. I mean, but at that time in my life, that interaction made a very deep impact in my life.
Mm.
So, how she treated us, it affected me for the rest of my life, and it still does to this day. Have I forgiven the lady? Yes. I don't know. Maybe she ain't had no training. Maybe she would had a bad day, but that was a bad day to have a bad day when I came up in there with my mom. And so, I just hate it. Now, one thing I did like was that cheese, okay? Because that government cheese, Velveeta and Kraft didn't have nothing on it. It made the best macaroni and cheese, grilled cheese sandwich and stuff. So, I'm looking at a positive impact on it, okay? I'll take that cheese over some of this other cheese any day. But getting back to that situation, um, I didn't like when we went to the grocery store, you're using, my mom had to use this money because everybody know. I mean, the difference between fake money and real money. And so moving forward, I remember I was telling you about the thick glasses. And I remember I got to high school and I was like, Mom, you don't have to give me anything else. All I wanted is some contacts because I couldn't take them glasses anymore. All I wanted is some contacts. I don't want nothing else. Just get me some contacts so I can get out of these thick glasses. So that was my Christmas present. And I'll tell you, I was excited.
Oh.
And so, like I said, we were, in poverty and everything. But what I really want to say, along that, and as Vicky has said, when you know better, you do better. I had made up my mind that I would not be a person. Poverty wasn't going to pass down to me. I wasn't going to live that out. That wasn't our lot in life. That wasn't my lot in life. And I was determined. I was going to do something about it. I wasn't going to wait on the government. The government ain't trying to help me like that. I'm not saying if you're on those type of assistance, we were on it. Be on it temporarily. If you want to be on it for the rest of your life, I have nothing against that. That's your life. But for my life, I was like, I am not going to be down there. I am not going to be poor for the rest of my life. I don't care what society say. I don't care what so-called professionals say. If you come from this type of background and everything, you more than likely. No, you don't determine, you don't dictate what I get and where I go and how far I go in life because of where I came from. No, I can turn that tide. The Bible says that faith without works is dead. I had to do something. But the first thing I had to do, I had to change my mindset and get in my mind, no, I would not be living out this type of life because I knew I deserved better. Even at a young age, I knew that. And I was going to do something about it. And I wasn't going to depend on other people to do it. I had to do my part. I had to do my part. So fast forward, um, went to we was in my mom was on welfare through my I want to say up to like my freshman year of college, and I had went away from school. I mean, I had left home, went away to school, then I ended up coming back, and I came back home, and I didn't want to be in Saginaw, and I did not want to be back home. And my mom at this time, she had got married when I was in my freshman year. So that bumped up the income, the household income. It didn't bump up really my income, but the household income. So I came back home and my mom, had encouraged me or, was really pushing me to go down to see if I can get some assistance, the welfare office, some assistance. I did not want to go down. I did not want to go down. But I felt pressure to go down there. So I went down there, filled out the paper. They wouldn't give me any food assistance, but they would give me health care, which I needed because I wasn't on my mom's health care. So I said, I would not be on this long. I wasn't getting caught up in the system. I was not. So I was there. I got the health care for a certain period of time. And then it just got to the point I was like, I don't want their health care. I don't want nothing from them. I don't want to be down there and I don't want to be tied to the system. So I went without health care. I said, I'd rather not have it than have to deal with them. They too nosy. They want to know too much of your business. And I don't want them to know my business. So I did. I didn't have any health care. You know what? Even though I needed health care, it was the to weigh it against each other, have the health care, have to deal with them, or not have the health care. I opted not have the health care. And eventually, um, as I worked and everything, and I got full-time job and it had health care, I never had to go back down there anymore for myself. And you know, people don't realize, and I just think about it. I want to go back to like when you're working for someone else, or I'll just put it like this: if you are the boss, it is so important to make sure your people are trained because they may be the first interaction they have with your business.
Absolutely.
They may not reflect what you reflect, but they are the first ones a lot of time people have with your business, and it can deter them by what your staff or your employee, how the interaction. If it's not good customer service, guess what? You will never reap the benefits because a lot of people may not even come back to that establishment or your business, and you have no idea why. But it was because of your employees' interaction with that person. And if they don't tell you, then you will never know. And so um, I was happy that I didn't have to go down to that welfare office anymore. And I still have a negative connotation, for it. Not that everybody is like that, but just how my my experience with it. It could be better now. I don't know. But that just made a lasting, impact in my life. And I want to share that, it's important for us individually to not allow people to dictate what we have, what we can do, how far we can go in life. I chose to go the academic and athletic route. I was like, I am getting out of this situation. I'm going to get myself out of this situation. And no, I didn't do it by myself. It was loving people, encouraging people. I had a lot of encouragement. People, I mean, I can't tell you how many people poured into my life and told me, Sharina, you're going to make something of yourself. And that drove me to make something of myself because I had people pouring into me. And now I can pour into other people and say, you're going to make something of yourself. This may be what you're going through right now. But guess what? It doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. What God did for me, He could do it for you too. But you got to put in the work. It's not anything magical. Just like I remember growing up um, we had our school clothes and we had our play clothes. And when you go to the store and you go shopping and everything, when it's not your money, you want some of everything, right? Okay, but when you have to pay, when you have to use with your own money, guess what? You take care of those things a lot better. You take care of those things. You'll find them all on the floor and everything, they was hung up. So just even in life, that you have to have a mindset. You have to be resilient. It's going to be things happen in life. Can't be a person that you easily quit or give up when things get hard. You never really advance. You're going to have, it's going to be times of struggle. It's going to be high times. It's going to be low times. But it's how we respond, not react, because we can react in our feelings. We can act in emotions. You can get caught up and then you make things worse. But sometimes you just have to step back, look at yourself and say, okay, where do I want to be? How can I get there? So I was smart. So I was like, I'm going to college. I am going to college. I'm going to get scholarships because I didn't want that burden on my family. And I did go to college. I did get some scholarships. You know, I still owe money and everything, but it's okay. It is okay. You know, I'm not in poverty. I don't have to go down to that welfare or even with prices. Now I'm not saying I don't complain. I was like, now this don't make no sense. It's 4 years now. Are they playing games with us? Does this stuff really cost this much? Or are they trying to make up for what they lost 4 years, over these 4 years? But guess what? Now I pick and choose. I can go in the store and buy anything that I'm willing to pay for. And it didn't used to be like that. It didn't used to be like that. But now I can. Now I can. Because I refuse to have a mindset of poverty. I refused it. I was like, not here. And I did something about it. So if you in a state in your life and you don't like how it is, you got to do something about it. And nobody can make you. You got to push yourself. And it may be painful. It may be uncomfortable. But when you come out on that other side, you're going to look back and you say, you know what? It was well worth it. That's all I have to say.
Wow, Sharina, that was amazing. That was really, really good. You're very emotional and passionate about your topic, and which I appreciate because you showed your transparency in everything that you were saying, right? So again, I'm being taken back, as a child growing up. Yeah, I came up on welfare too. It wasn't the DHS we went to see, it was welfare. That's what they called it back then. It wasn't the little card that they have now for their food stamp money on it. It was the actual paper money, just like you said. And yeah, you said you didn't know that you were poor. I can't really say that I didn't know that I wasn't poor. I knew that we didn't have the things that other people had. I knew that my mom could not afford to buy the fancy food. I knew that we were on a surplus at the time. That's what they called it, which was the cheese, the rice, the peanut butter, the Spam. Hated Spam. It was the Spam. It was all of that stuff and the cheese, of course. And excuse me, and I knew that I had to wear clothes that were passed down to me, clothes that were passed down from cousins, clothes that were passed down from our neighbors, because my mom couldn't afford it. She was a single mom too. So, and she had a bunch of kids, so she could not afford to pay for things that maybe the other families were allowed to get. We didn't have those kind of things. And like you, when you're a child, it is kind of traumatizing. It's traumatizing when you go into places and you know that maybe your friends. Another example, when I was younger in school, and when I was real young, we had where we got milk for a snack, right, in school. You got the chocolate milk and you got the white milk. Okay. My mom couldn't afford to pay for the chocolate milk because she had more kids than just me. even though the chocolate milk was only maybe 10 cents at that time. She didn't have that extra 10 cents. So I grew up on drinking the white milk. I had to learn to like that white milk. So if ever I got that chocolate milk, it was amazing to me. But the white milk is what I grew up on because we could not afford those things. So I can't necessarily say I didn't know I wasn't poor. I knew I didn't have the things that other people had. I knew that my mom struggled. I knew that she struggled hard. So just like you, I said, I don't ever want to be in that position. I'm not saying that people who are in that position that it's wrong to be, because some people have choice. I'm not saying that. But I said I didn't ever want to be in that position. And I have been working since I was 14 years old. 14 years old. 47 of those years in finances and then beyond. So I always felt that way because, like you, I wanted to be able to buy the things that I really wanted. As I got older and once I got married, I wanted to be able to provide for my family along with my husband the things that I didn't have as a child. Some people said my kids were spoiled. I didn't call it spoiled. I just felt like I wanted them to have things that the other kids are not going to just be, kids can be mean, laughing, making fun of them, teasing them all the time. My kids coming home crying because they don't have decent things. They didn't have the best, but they had decent things, right? They had decent things that they could go to school in and not be laughed at, not be teased about, so I appreciate it. It took me back. It really took me back. And yes, the shame of it all with the food stamps. Yeah, I felt shame as well. But it was the only way my mom could provide for us. My mom had a lot of health problems, a lot of other issues going on. She had to do what she had to do. So like you've already stated, if you don't have to do it, if you have to do it, and you have to do it for a period of time, fine. But don't spend your life on it if you don't have to. If you want to, that's a whole different situation. But if you don't have to, seek other ways of doing things and getting things, Evelyn.
Yes, I have a question, as always. Serena, thank you for sharing. Um, question. So it sounds like you had a plan, right? And you started your plan early on, like when you were a teenager. Am I correct?
Oh no, I was in elementary when
Really?
I had that mindset. Yes, I was in elementary.
Okay. Okay. So and hopefully you can answer this question. But I was just wondering, did you feel like you would have anxiety of the thought of going to DHS or welfare, as you call it back then? Did it cause you depression or anything because of it? Do you think?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say like any depression. It just put a guard up. For me, I just didn't want to go down there. That one interaction just because and it wasn't just me, other people that I knew, the families that went down to the welfare office, it was kind of like the same sentiment of how they treat people, you know. So I had experienced that personally with, my mom and I. So I knew they was telling the truth. So it wasn't just something that happened to us, but other people echoed that same type of thing, as far
Okay.
as how they would get treated in the welfare office. And so, like Vicky was saying, the shame, I just didn't want to be affiliated with it. I just didn't want to I just didn't want to have anything else to do it. It just took that one time for me, you know.
Right.
And people would get assigned a worker. So if the worker didn't leave, we would still have to deal with that same, person unless they was, on vacation or something like that. I just didn't like that whole, and I understand that, business, you have to have a process and everything like that. But still, everybody deserves to be treated with respect and
And
kindness
dignity.
Yes.
and dignity, no matter what walk of life they're in. Everybody needs to be taught, greeted with compassion and stuff. That lady didn't know what happened, why we had to come down there. People have their own opinions and stuff. Why people come down there, but you don't know. You don't know what a person's situation is. So that one time just set it off for me that no, this would not be my lifestyle. And so when when I had that, and I'm the oldest child, so normally the oldest child, you set the example, a lot is expected of you and stuff. But I just didn't want that type of life. I just didn't want that type of life.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And
You're
there's
welcome.
nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And you know what? That holds true today when you go into different businesses. It's how the person behind that counter treats you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the person that's coming in. You don't know what they're going through. And if you don't give them good service, then chances are you're going to lose that person and they're never going to come back there again. So that holds true for anything in any business. It's that first person that you interact with, that you encounter. They kind of set the tone for the business, whether they believe it or not. They set the tone for that particular business, right?
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much, Sharina, for you being so transparent and all of your passion. I thank you. That was so good. It was really good. So now I'm going to bring up Miss Kendall McElway. Kendall McElway, age 27, relocated to Saginaw from Detroit in 2022 to be closer to her immediate family. After a successful tenure in mortgage industry spanning 4 years and a desire for a deeper fulfillment and connection in her work life, she made a decisive shift. Returning to college to pursue a dual focus on psychology and women's studies. Celebrating nearly a year at Women of Colors, Kendall serves as their social media coordinator and prevention specialist. Additionally, she is the creative force behind the Dress for Purpose program, which equips young adults and teens with the skills needed for professional advancement. Welcome, Kendall.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I am a little nervous, I must say, being here with you guys. But I loved hearing both your stories, Crystal and Sharina. And again, thank you. Thank you for having me. I think I'm a little nervous because I feel like what I feel led to share the journey is I'm still kind of in it. I feel like I'm far enough in it to share and to talk about it, but still very much, in it and learning about it as I go. I think a lot of what I want to talk about stems from childhood and learning to accept myself and develop a really strong relationship, not just with God, but with myself, which I think the two are very intertwined, very closely connected. But I think one thing I heard that I have in common with Crystal and Sharina is that we're all oldest children. We're all the oldest daughters. I believe that that is a very specific role to play in your family, not just as the oldest child, but the oldest daughter. And I know a lot of friends and people that I have in my life also have that experience, and we talk about it often. It's very, very specific experience to have. And with that growing up, I always had this feeling to be perfect and to be everything for everybody in my family, especially because I have great parents. I have a great mom, but I did not see them be the best to each other in our childhood, which created a very unstable environment for me, especially emotionally. I saw a lot of emotional neglect, verbal neglect, physical, things like that. So it created a very tough environment for me to thrive in. And naturally, I was always kind of a more reserved kid, and not even because I felt like I wanted to be. It was just caring everything for everybody. I saw a lot. I was always very perceptive, very intuitive. So I knew what was going on, even when people tried to hide things from me and wanted to always be, my mom has always said, like, you were that kid that I never felt like I had to worry about, and now as an adult and through therapy and things, I understand that that was because I didn't want anyone to have to worry about me. It was like one thing I ever everything else going on in the house. I didn't want me to be another added stressor on anyone. So I just, I held everything in. I took everything for everybody. I just put everything on my back. So um that was something that I think I've come a long way, but still growing out of doing, not trying to take on everything for everyone. In addition to that, I grew up feeling like my natural sensitivity and perception and things like that, it was often weaponized. I was always feeling like I was either too much or not enough. When people wanted me to be sensitive, that was most of the time that I felt like I needed to like put my armor on and you know what I mean, just kind of push through and do what needed to be doing, but people wanted me to be sensitive. And then when I was sensitive and I would show my emotions, then that was not the right time for it wasn't convenient for everybody around me for me to do that. So it was always
It's sound. It's sound.
I don't know why my mute just muted. Sorry.
Okay.
My mic just muted. Sorry. Um, but yes, almost always too much or not enough. And because our emotional environment was so up and down, my parents did a lot of making up and breaking up. So we moved around a lot growing up. I want to say I was counting earlier. I think I lived in like 10 different homes through um, like between 5 and 18. So we moved a lot. So naturally, I was always trying to like make new friends and, you know, just adjust to new environments and things like that, which also puts you in the space of wanting to be what people needed you to be so you could, have friends and interactions and a social life and things like that. So that only further, you know, enforced that feeling in me of, I don't want to be too much because I like want these friends around, but I don't want to do not enough. So yeah, that was that was the thing. I went to 3 different high schools. So just to drive that point home, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. Um, and I ended up leaving home at 18, went to college, um, and was there, went into finance, things like that. And for a while, I was like, okay, I can do this. This is fine. Um, but it never felt like I was truly connected with what I was doing. Never really felt that I was what's the word? I guess fulfilled essentially. But at the same time, that was not something that felt that I should have because I never felt that growing up. I always felt like I needed to do exactly what I needed to do to fit into the box and the expectations that everyone around me had. So my fulfillment, my connection to what I was doing, my sense of purpose, that wasn't a priority because it had never been something that I was used to feeling anyway. Um, and I noticed that in the time of college and things of that sort, um, I was just further and further in these spaces where there was only a really short uh, or small window for me. There was a very small box for me to fit in. Now, one thing I will say about my childhood and that I'm very, very, very thankful for my mother, two things actually. One is that she introduced therapy to us somewhat young. I think I was like 14 when my parents finally divorced. And I say finally because I was very happy about this. Like I was like, please, for us, please please, just call it off. But she introduced that to us as an idea very young. So I did not go through that sense of having to adjust to the thought of therapy, which I think a lot of people, that is their experience with therapy, that it's something bad, especially if you're Christian, like you shouldn't need outside help and things of that sort. So I'm very blessed to say that she introduced that to me, because I, thought back, and it was in college, and I just couldn't, um, I never felt settled. I was like, something in my spirit, I just feel unhappy. I feel sad. I feel just this anxiety, and I didn't even have the word for it at the time. I just knew I did not feel good in my body. And so I went to our campus therapist, and I started therapy for a while. And a lot of things, of course, from my childhood, as therapy does, comes up, um, about, my need to people please, and to try to be everything for everyone, and how in trying to do that, in trying to be that for everybody, the person that I was neglecting the most was myself. And how empty that was leaving me feel, how drained that was leaving me to feel. Um, and the second thing that my mom introduced me to, that I'm very, very thankful for, is I always grew up with a lot of women around, very, very strong, very different, all different, types of women, but women. And I remember her telling me that she didn't grow up with that. And it took her a while to realize that her mother, my grandmother, didn't know everything. She didn't have all the resources for her. But she felt that my grandma had a hard time admitting that she did not know everything. So she did not want me to grow up not having other people, other women that could pour into me in whatever ways she would not have been able to. And with that, I started to notice in my young adulthood, I'm like, I care and love and admire all of them for different reasons. But the women that I really, I'm like, I would like who you are. I admire you. I think you're so strong and brilliant and all these things. They were women that they really knew themselves. They had really deep, fulfilled inner lives, and they prioritized that. They did not, it, and not in a selfish way, but it was about them. They let their life be about them. And of course, again, they were very courteous, very kind, very caring women that took care of their families, and were hard workers and all those things. But they were happy with themselves, and they knew themselves. And I felt like I want to be that way. I want to um, feel proud of myself. I want to feel connected. I want to feel like if no one else in this world has got me, I've got me. And um, Sharina, you said something of don't let others dictate your life. And I felt that in the sense of, again, I'm not going to let anybody else in my life dictate how I feel about me. I can't do that anymore. I don't want to be the person that is running around trying to do so much for other people, that I'm always feeling, A, like I don't have enough left for myself, but B, my opinion of myself, my opinion of how good I am or how not so good I am is reliant on the performance reviews of everyone else. Either you're doing too much or you're not doing enough. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is not going to work for me. So yeah, um, that was a big thing for me. And even when I moved to Saginaw in 2022, it was after leaving a really emotionally abusive relationship. And my mom had moved up here after she got married a few years prior. My brother followed her up here. And I felt like I had finally gotten the courage to like leave the person that I was dating at the time. And I'm like, I have to, like, I need to get out. I need to leave. Came to Saginaw. And I felt like that was the true, like, I don't even know, the true kickstart to me, really feeling like I've got myself. I'd started the journey, I feel like, in college, and kind of dabbled dabbled in and out of it. But coming here in 2022 was like a total full reset for me, a time of understanding and knowing, like, again, if no one else has you, you have you, and you have to trust yourself. You know who you are. You make sure that you can love on you and stand in your own power and don't let anybody else dictate who you are, and the choices that you make and the decisions that you make. You're not going to be perfect. If you are going to not like anything or regret something, at least let it be something that came from an honest, true place of you, not because you were trying to do anything or please anyone else. So that was a big thing for me. And learning to view my intuitive nature, my perception, my things not as a weakness that it had felt like growing up, but learning to know that, like, that's my superpower. Um, that's my position of power, and leaning into that and understanding, um, you know, you don't have to dim that light to be in any space, to fit in any space. Now people do have to earn your heart, and you allow people to earn your heart, but don't dim that light so that it doesn't come off as off-putting to anyone else.
Thank you, Kendall. That was a great story. I enjoyed that. Yeah, it sounds like you went through a lot in your childhood. And I appreciate the fact that you said you did have therapy. So learning how to deal with all of the emotions that you were carrying inside is really important. You also stated that you moved around a lot. You said about 10 times. Oh, can I relate? We moved a lot too when I was a child as well. I can remember the one time we were going to a new school in Benton Harbor, and we had moved around so much till they tried to get me to go in the class and I wouldn't go in. The teacher kept trying to beg me to come in. The principal out there trying to push me through the door. I wouldn't go. I just stood there crying. I was so embarrassed because we had actually come back to that school like 2 or 3 times already. And I was so embarrassed. As a kid, you get embarrassed really easily. And I couldn't go through. I just didn't want to go through it. Eventually, yeah, I ended up in that class, but I can remember those days. And I liked how you said you tried to be a people pleaser. Don't we all do that at times in our lives? Sometimes I still find that I am still trying to be that people pleaser. Why? Because you want people to like you. You want to be, I don't know. I guess that's what it is. And you want to do all you can to help people, but sometimes people take advantage. They really take advantage of your goodness, your kindness. They take advantage of it. And we being the person that we are that want to please, I find even to this day, sometimes it's hard for me to say no. Don't ask my daughter. She seems to think no is my favorite word, but it's not. But it's hard. I remember even when Oprah was on television all the time, and she said she had to learn how to say the word no, because sometimes it's hard to, because we want to please. So sometimes it's hard to find those words to say no. And then in the midst of that, trying to please other people all the time, we do start to lose ourselves. We lose ourselves in the process. And how do we get ourselves back? That's a little mystery of mine. So I am trying my best to learn to say the word no more often than I ever have, because like I say, trying to please people, you just can't please people all the time. I don't care what you do. They're never going to be completely pleased. I don't care what you do, and you do find that you're losing yourself in the process. And you know what? There are times that we need to take that time for ourselves and do something for ourselves. Evelyn, I think I saw your hand.
Thank you. It's we've been knowing Crystal for quite a while now, and Kendall too for a little bit. And you still, this is what's great about telling your stories. Because
Absolutely.
even though you think you know individuals, you still don't know their stories. You don't know what they've been through or going through in life. You do not know. That's
Right.
why you have to be so careful what you say and how you interact with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendall, my question to you is you said you still kind of going through it, but you also were saying that you, and it's you so true, you have to value who you are, you have to know who you are and love on yourself. So you're still struggling, but we all still struggle, and as you put get older, there's going to be new struggles of learning who you are 10 years from now, because you're going to change.
Right.
We're constantly changing and evolving as individuals as we learn. It's an ongoing battle as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is, I think, a big component of this journey. Like now, I feel like I'm at a space where it's not as much of a struggle as much as it is something that I do have to be conscious of.
That's
Of,
good.
you know,
That's good.
okay, are you like one thing that my therapist said to me, and I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And she was like, in this midst of trying to people please, how many people are actually pleased with you?
Right.
Mm.
That's a good question. Right.
And I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you can never really make everyone happy. And you find yourself going so far out of your way for people. And then they're still like, oh, but you could have did this, or you should have did this, or why didn't, and especially in that it's only harder when you know that you did it and sacrificed yourself in the process, so now it is very much something that like I have different checkpoints with myself of like, okay, are you saying yes because you actually want to do this thing? Are you saying yes because it's going to add value in your life in some way, and what value looks like can be very, very different in different situations, or are you saying yes because you're looking for a specific response or result, or you know relationship with this person, and you're thinking that your yes is going to facilitate that? Because like let's check in with ourselves. And again, part of that is like not that I'm saying be out and like lying to people, but if you're going to be honest with anyone, let it be yourself. Be honest and check in and know what's really going on in your spirit. So that is something that day to day is, I think, more and more becoming, a routine for me, but it's still something I have to be very conscious of just checking in with myself and asking myself, um, whatever questions apply in whatever scenario, to make sure I am not um, going against myself at the end of the day. Yeah. Because no
That's
one's going to
great.
have you like you have you.
That's right.
Hmm.
That's so true. That's true. Wow. Because a lot of women, they have to have a man in order to feel like they're somebody of value, and that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Which was another part of things for me, um, again, growing up and being able to have a lot of really amazing women in my life, my mom included, my grandma, aunts, everything. Um, a lot of the times when I saw women's lives fall apart, it was at the hands of a man in any regard. So, and I was like, I can't do that. I won't, and to some extent, that's been my own experience. I was blessed that it wasn't so catastrophic, but I've had that experience myself, and I'm like, I, mm-mm, I won't do that. So me being able to set the baseline of what joy and peace and happiness and fulfillment looks like in my life is very, very important along this journey that I'm on, so that no one else is able to come in and set that standard for me. It's something that is set on my own. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome.
Well, I enjoyed each one of your stories. I appreciate you sharing your heart with us, and you absolutely did. Every one of you, your stories are just great. And I always say, yeah, no one knows your story like you know your story. No one can tell that story the way that you can tell that story. And always know that you are helping somebody else out there. They may not even tell you, and then again, they may tell you. I've had people come up to me and say, I really liked what you said. That helped me. And that makes you feel really good, because just to know that you are helping somebody out there, and I'm sure that you are. I appreciate everything that you guys said today. Just wonderful. And just keep going in a positive way, just keep moving on. And I really loved it. This was amazing. How I Overcame. That's our title. That's where we talk about our struggles and how we get through them and how we've gotten through them. So I thank you so very much. I'm going to turn it back into the hands of the president.
Okay. Well, I just hope that everyone enjoy the stories. And I just want to thank our panelists for sharing and being transparent. Sharina Johnson, Crystal Sanders, Kendall McElway. Also, Alpha Media they always do a great job. Everyone that's been listening on WSGW, WGER, the Moose Station, and WTLZ Kiss 107. I want to thank our sponsors, the Michigan Public Health Institute. I'm sorry, and a special thanks to our Zoom our tech person Dustin, and our Women of Colors Forum Committee and the board of directors, and the members of Women of Colors. And I just hope you have a wonderful evening. And just thank you again for tuning in to How Overcame.
Do you want to tell them about anything that might be coming up, Evelyn?
Well, I know next month we at the end of April, I believe it's April the 27th. We plan to have another forum for veterans and mental health. So I know that's going to be awesome as well. And in May 18th, Women of Colors is planning a women's wellness expo in partnership with Delta College downtown, May 18th. So hopefully you'll hear more information about that real soon. And so basically that's it. Am I forgetting anything, Vicky? Is that it for right now?
Well, you also have an event of your own, which is the Mother You Know. How could you forget?
You're right. Because I'm always women of colors. But yes, the Mother You Know essay, 500-word essay contest. And so, well, matter of fact, one reason why I probably did mention it because the essays are due today. But we will be having an event on May 4th to honor the winners of the essays. And they'll be winning cash prizes and other things that day. So it'll be a nice brunch and award ceremony.
And what is the real purpose of you doing the Mother You Know?
The purpose of the Mother You Know stems from a meeting Women of Colors had years and years ago, and all the women, it was like 10 women in this meeting, and all the women, when they told the stories about their mothers, they couldn't tell stories about their mothers without crying, except for one mother, one individual. And so it was just so powerful and impactful. It just struck me for years and years until eventually I wrote a book about the Mother You Know, and with 5 authors, including Vicky, and we talked about our experiences growing up and with our mothers and motherhood, and it's about giving hope, forgiveness, and just sharing love. And so that's how this essay contest came about, because it's so important. Mothers are the focus of the universe, and we do so much, and people are hurting. All I can say is people are hurting, and it's from their childhood, because they either missing the love of their mother, or they love their mother so much, and mother has an impact on them that words can't express. And so it's very important that we just help and support our mothers.
Amen.
Yes, thank you. So, all right. So we have another forum coming up in April, the end of April. It'll be the last Friday night in April. We'll be talking with veterans and mental health. So please tune in at that time as well. Then May the 4th is the Mother You Know. That's Evelyn's event herself. It will be held at the Success Academy, 1000 Tuscola. So make sure you notate that. And then on May the 18th, it is Women of Colors in Delta College in partnership for the Women Wellness Expo. We've got some great speakers that are going to be on program. It's going to be a great event. It's absolutely free. You don't have to pay anything to get in. So meet us at the downtown Delta Center. It's going to be great. The flyers have been going out already. So, and you will hear more about it. You'll hear the commercials coming up. You'll hear me talking about it on radio. So make sure you join us. We would love to have you, love to see you come out and support Women of Colors. Thank you so very much for tuning in to us tonight. And we were glad to be able to share with you tonight. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.